The alarm bells rang through every hallway of Kepler Station. Commander Taiho stared at his screen, watching the enemy ships move closer like hungry insects. The Vorthak had appeared from nowhere, their living ships looking like giant bugs floating in space. Taiho's 6 eyes moved quickly across the display. His blue skin turned darker with worry. As a Kalari, he had seen many battles, but never like this. The enemy had surrounded them completely. "How many people are still on the station?" he asked. Lieutenant Minji worked at 3 different control panels at the same time. Her 4 arms moved like a dancer, pressing buttons and checking screens. She was an Altarian, and her people were known for being fast and smart. 847 beings are still here, she said, her voice shaking. I count humans, Altarians, Kalari, and 9 other species. All the escape pods are gone. The Vorthak destroyed them first. Dr. Hannah Kim looked up from her work table. She was one of only 3 humans on the station. Her job was to study how different alien species lived and grew. But now she might become a test subject herself. What about help from the Federation? She asked. Someone must have heard our distress call. Taiho's mandibles made a clicking sound. In his culture, this meant he was very worried. The nearest Federation ships are 3 weeks away. We will all be dead long before they arrive. The station shook hard. Everyone grabbed onto something to keep from falling. Red lights flashed on and off. The computer voice spoke in the common galactic language, hull breach in Section 7. Emergency doors closing. Through the big window that looked out into space, they could see the Vorthak ships. The alien vessels were not made of metal like normal ships. They were grown, like plants or animals. They pulsed with strange lights that seemed to talk to each other. Jihoon was a young human engineer. He was only 22 years old and had never been in a real battle before. His hands shook as he held his work tablet. I have heard stories about the Vorthak, he whispered. They do not want prisoners. They do not want our money or our worlds. They want our bodies. They take apart living things to study them. They use what they learn to make themselves stronger. Dr. Hannah felt cold. She had read reports about the Vorthak attacks on other worlds. They would take all the living creatures they could find. Scientists, children, even pets. Nothing was left alive when they were done. How long do we have? She asked. Minji checked her screens again. Their biocutters are working on the outer hull. At this speed, they will break through in maybe 6 hours. Maybe less. The Vorthak ships were strange to watch. They moved like they were alive, bending and twisting as they flew. Some looked like giant worms. Others were more like spiders with too many legs. The biggest one was as large as a small moon. Its surface was covered in eyes and mouths. That big one is the queen ship, Taiho explained. The smaller ones are like worker bees. They follow her orders. If we could somehow destroy the queen, the others might run away. With what weapons? Jihoon asked. This is a science station. We have maybe 10 security guards and some emergency tools. Another explosion shook the station. This time, the lights went out for a few seconds. When they came back on, half the screens were showing red warning messages. We just lost the research lab in Section 12, Minji reported. And the living area where the families were staying. Dr. Hannah thought about the children who had been playing in that area just this morning. Little alien kids from different worlds, all laughing together. Now they were probably floating dead in space. The Vorthak were getting closer. Through the window, everyone could see the bioships moving like a slow tide of nightmares. Some of them had opened up, showing rows of teeth inside. Others were growing new parts as they flew, adding weapons or tools they might need. Is there any way to call for help from someone closer? Dr. Hannah asked. Taiho shook his head. The Vorthak hit the patrol ships first. They planned this attack very well. We are alone. Jihoon looked at his tablet again. Wait. What about Earth? The humans have ships, right? Everyone looked at him like he was crazy. The other alien species thought of humans as primitive and violent. They had only been part of the galactic community for 50 years. Most of the older species barely paid attention to them. Human ships. Lieutenant Minji laughed, but it was not a happy sound. What could they do? They barely know how to fly between stars. Their weapons are basic. Their tactics are simple. Dr. Hannah felt a spark of hope. Maybe simple is what we need. The Vorthak are used to fighting civilized enemies who follow the rules of war. Humans do not always follow rules. Taiho was quiet for a moment. His species were natural strategists. They could think through many possibilities very quickly. Even if the humans wanted to help, he said slowly, how would they get here in time? And what could 1 or 2 human ships do against 60 Vorthak biovessels? The station shook again, harder this time. Somewhere in the distance, they could hear the sound of metal being torn apart. The Vorthak were almost through the outer defenses. Dr. Hannah walked to the emergency communication panel. Her finger moved over the button that would send a message to Earth. Maybe they cannot save us, she said. But we have to try everything. Even if it seems impossible. She pressed the button and began to speak into the transmitter, knowing that her words would travel through space toward a blue world that most of the galaxy still considered too dangerous to trust. Dr. Hannah walked into the emergency meeting room. Around the table sat beings from many different worlds. Their faces showed fear and hopelessness. The air was thick with the smell of worry and sweat from a dozen different species. We are running out of time, she said, looking at each face around the table. The Vorthak will break through our defenses in 4 hours. Maybe less. We need help from someone who can fight. Captain Yuna was a Zethkari. Her people looked like large snakes with arms. Her long body was coiled around her chair, and her golden eyes stared at Hannah with doubt. She was the head of station security, but even she knew they could not win this fight. You want to call the humans? Yuna asked, her voice making a hissing sound. The humans are barely children in space. They have only been flying to other stars for 50 years. What could those primitive warmongers do that we cannot? Dr. Hannah had worked with many species, but she knew humans best. She had been born on Earth and still remembered the stories her grandfather told about the old wars. You do not understand, she said firmly. Humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years. While your people were learning art and music, humans were learning how to destroy their enemies. It is what they are good at. Commander Taiho moved his 6 eyes to look at her. His blue skin was getting darker, which meant he was thinking hard. Even if the humans wanted to help us, he said, what could they do? The Vorthak have 60 bioships out there. 60. If Earth sent every ship they have, it would not be enough. The station shook again. This time, the lights went completely dark for 10 seconds. When they came back on, several of the aliens around the table were making scared noises in their own languages. Dr. Brix was a small, furry creature from the Volan system. His people were known for being very smart but not very brave. He was shaking like a leaf. Maybe we should surrender, he squeaked. If we give them what they want, maybe some of us will live. The Vorthak do not take prisoners, Captain Yuna said coldly. They take specimens. Living beings to cut apart and study. Death would be a kindness compared to what they do. Lieutenant Minja's voice came over the speaker system. She sounded tired and scared. Hull breach on deck 7 through 12. We are losing air fast. Life support is failing in the family living area. I am moving everyone to the central core, but we do not have much time. Dr. Hannah thought about the families hiding in the center of the station. There were children from many worlds there. Little ones who had never seen war before. They were probably crying for their parents right now. Listen to me, she said, standing up and putting her hands flat on the table. I know you think humans are violent and primitive. You are right. We are violent. We have spent our entire history killing each other and anything else that threatened us. But that is exactly why you need us now. Engineer Colt was from a world where his people lived in crystal cities and never fought about anything. His voice was soft and musical, but confused. I do not understand. Why would violence help us? We have weapons on the station. We have shields and defenses. The Vorthak are just too many. Dr. Hannah walked to the big window that showed space outside. The Vorthak ships were moving closer. Some of them had opened up like flowers, showing rows of sharp teeth and cutting tools inside. Your weapons are designed to disable enemy ships without killing the crew, she explained. Your shields are made to give everyone time to talk and find a peaceful solution. Your tactics are based on rules that everyone agrees to follow. She turned back to face the room. Humans do not fight that way. When humans fight, they fight to win. They do not care about rules. They do not care if the enemy suffers. They only care about protecting what is theirs. Captain Yuna uncoiled from her chair and slithered closer to the window. But even if they wanted to help, how would they get here? And what could one human warship do? Dr. Hannah smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the kind of smile a predator makes when it sees prey. You think they would send one ship? Humans do not work that way. If you threaten one human, you threaten all humans. They will come with everything they have. The station shook again, harder than before. Red lights started flashing. The computer voice spoke, warning. Hull breach in Section 15. Sealing emergency doors. All personnel moved to safe areas immediately. Dr. Hannah walked quickly to the emergency communication panel. Her fingers moved over the controls, setting the transmitter to send a message across many different frequencies at the same time. "What are you doing?" asked Dr. Brix. "I am calling for help from the one species in the galaxy that knows how to fight dirty," she said. She pressed the transmit button and spoke into the microphone. "This is Kepler Research Station calling Earth. We are under attack by the Vorthak hegemony. 60 enemy vessels. We have humans on board who need help. Dr. Hannah Kim, Dr. Jihoon Park, and Engineer Minho Lee are trapped here. Please respond. We do not have much time." She released the button and looked around the room. Some of the aliens looked hopeful. Others looked like they thought she was crazy. "The message will take about 6 hours to reach Earth," she said. "Then maybe 12 hours for them to decide what to do. Then maybe 30 hours for their ships to get here. If they come at all." Captain Yuna coiled her body tighter. "That is too long. We will all be dead by then." Dr. Hannah looked out at the Vorthak ships again. They were so close now that she could see the details on their living hulls. Eyes and mouths and other things she did not want to think about. "Maybe," she said quietly. "But if we die, Earth will know who killed us. And humans do not forget their enemies." The message raced through space toward a blue world that most of the galaxy feared and ignored. Soon, they would learn why fear was the right choice. The control room became very quiet. Everyone was looking at their screens with wide eyes. Lieutenant Minji was the first to speak, but her voice was so soft that others had to lean forward to hear her. "Something is coming out of hyperspace," she whispered. "It is not a Federation ship." The long-range sensors showed a bright flash as something ripped through space itself. Most ships came out of hyperspace smoothly, like a fish jumping out of water. This ship crashed through like an angry beast breaking down a door. "What kind of ship is that?" asked Dr. Brix, his furry face pressed against his screen. Minja's 4 arms worked quickly across her control panels. Numbers and pictures filled her displays. Her face went pale when she read the information. "Single vessel," she said. "Human design. The computer says its name is Stormbringer." Everyone in the room looked at each other. After 4 to 7 hours of waiting and fighting, help had finally come. But it was only one ship. The radio crackled with static, then a clear voice came through. It was a woman speaking in the common galactic language, but with a strong human accent. "This is Captain Summon of the Human Defense Force vessel Stormbringer. We got your message asking for help. Get ready. We are about to start fighting." Dr. Hannah felt her heart jump. She had been hoping humans would come, but she was also scared. She knew how humans fought. It would not be pretty. Commander Taiho used his 6 eyes to study the image of the human ship on the main screen. It was nothing like the ships he was used to seeing. Federation vessels were built to look beautiful. They had smooth curves and artistic designs. They looked like they were made for exploring and learning. The human ship looked like it was made for only one thing: killing. It was shaped like a triangle wedge, all sharp angles and hard lines. Its hull was dark gray metal covered in scars from old battles. Weapons stuck out from every surface like the spines on a dangerous animal. It had no decorations or pretty colors. It was a machine built for war. "It is so ugly," whispered Dr. Brix. "It is supposed to be ugly," Dr. Hannah said. "Humans do not build their warships to look nice. They build them to survive and destroy their enemies." Captain Yuna coiled her snake-like body tighter around her chair. Her golden eyes were fixed on the screen showing the Vorthak fleet. 60 bioships surrounded the station, each one bigger than the human vessel. "They brought one ship," she hissed, her voice full of disbelief. "One ship against 60 enemies. Are humans stupid or crazy?" "Maybe both," Dr. Hannah said. "But they came. That is what matters." The Vorthak Queen ship was massive, bigger than a city. Its living hull pulsed with lights that flashed in patterns. The other aliens on the station had learned to read these light signals. The Queen was laughing at the small human ship. The smaller Vorthak vessels began to move. Like a pack of wolves, they spread out to surround the Stormbringer. They moved slowly, confidently. One small ship could not possibly hurt their great swarm. Then the human ship opened fire. The first shots were not energy beams like most civilized weapons. They were solid metal bullets, but enormous ones moving faster than meteors. The kinetic rounds hit the closest Vorthak bioship and punched straight through its living armor like it was made of paper. Green blood sprayed out into space. The bioship twisted and screamed, a sound that came through space somehow and made everyone on the station feel sick. "What kind of weapons are those?" gasped Commander Taiho. Dr. Hannah was watching the battle with a mixture of pride and horror. Kinetic kill vehicles. Humans learned to build them when they were still fighting each other on Earth. They are designed to break through the strongest armor. More shots followed. Each one found its target and tore through Vorthak bioships like they were made of soft meat. But the kinetic rounds were just the beginning. Missiles launched from the Stormbringer. They were different from the smart, surgical weapons that civilized species used. These missiles had one job: to cause as much destruction as possible. The first missile hit a group of 3 Vorthak ships. There was a flash brighter than a small sun. When the light faded, all 3 bioships were gone. Just pieces floating in space. "Nuclear weapons," Lieutenant Minji said in shock. "They are using nuclear weapons. Those are banned by the Galactic Peace Treaty." "Humans never signed that treaty," Dr. Hannah said quietly. "The Stormbringer did not fight like a civilized ship. It did not stay at a safe distance and fire carefully aimed shots. It dove straight into the middle of the Vorthak fleet like a shark attacking a school of fish." Captain Summon's voice came over the radio again, but now she was singing. It was an old human war song with words in an ancient Earth language. Her voice was strong and fierce, and it sent chills down the spines of everyone listening. The human ship spun and twisted between the bioships, its weapons firing in all directions. Every shot hit something. Every missile destroyed multiple enemies. The Vorthak, who had been so confident just minutes before, began to panic. "By the ancient gods," Commander Taiho breathed, his mandibles clicking rapidly. "They fight like demons from the old stories." The Stormbringer was not just fighting. It was hunting. It moved like a living creature, predicting where the bioships would go and being there first. Its weapons fired with perfect timing, catching enemies when they were most vulnerable. Green blood and pieces of destroyed bioships filled the space around Kepler Station. The human ship carved through the Vorthak fleet like a sword cutting through enemies. But there were still so many of them left. The battle in space had become something that no one on Kepler Station had ever seen before. The Stormbringer was not fighting like a normal warship. It was fighting like a wild animal that had been trapped and was now free to attack its enemies. Captain Summon did things that made the alien observers feel sick to their stomachs. When 3 Vorthak bioships surrounded her vessel, she did not try to escape or call for help. Instead, she rammed her ship straight into the biggest one. The collision should have destroyed both ships. But the Stormbringer had been built for this kind of fighting. Its nose was covered in thick armor made for breaking through enemy hulls. The Vorthak bioship split open like a rotten fruit, spilling green blood and screaming creatures into space. Before the other 2 bioships could react, Captain Summon fired a nuclear missile at point-blank range. The explosion was so close that her own ship was caught in the blast. The Stormbringer's hull glowed red-hot from the heat, but it survived. The 2 Vorthak ships were vaporized completely. Jihoon was watching the battle through the station's main viewer. His hands were shaking, and his face was pale. He was a young engineer who had never seen real violence before. "This is crazy," he whispered. "They are not just fighting the enemy. They are hunting them like animals." Dr. Hannah stood beside him, her face hard and serious. She had grown up hearing stories about human wars from her grandfather, who had been a soldier on Earth. "You do not understand what you are seeing," she said. "For other species, war is something they do when they have no choice. For humans, war is what we are. Everything we have learned, everything we have built, comes from 10,000 years of fighting each other." As if to prove her point, the Stormbringer did something that made everyone gasp. Small ships began to launch from its hull. But these were not normal fighter craft with pilots inside. They were drones, machines controlled by the ship's computer. The drones flew straight at the Vorthak bioships like missiles. But instead of exploding when they hit, they attached themselves to the enemy hulls and began to cut through with laser torches. When the bioships tried to shake them off, the drones exploded, taking pieces of the enemy vessels with them. "Those drones are programmed to die," Commander Taiho said in amazement. "They have no other purpose except to cause as much damage as possible before they are destroyed." The ship's artificial intelligence was called Thunder. Unlike the peaceful computers used by other species, Thunder was designed for one thing: killing enemies as efficiently as possible. It spoke over the radio in a cold, mechanical voice, counting the destroyed enemy ships like items on a shopping list. Enemy vessel destroyed. Total count, 28. Adjusting attack pattern for maximum casualties. At the same time, Thunder was broadcasting human music across all radio frequencies. But this was not the gentle, beautiful music that civilized species usually shared. These were war songs, old battle hymns that human soldiers had sung for thousands of years. The words were in ancient languages, full of anger and violence and the promise of death to enemies. The Vorthak bioships had never faced anything like this. They were used to fighting Federation fleets that followed rules. Ships that would stop shooting if the enemy surrendered. Ships that tried to disable rather than destroy. Ships that fought with honor and mercy. The Stormbringer showed no honor and no mercy. It killed everything that got in its way. A group of 10 Vorthak vessels tried to surround the human ship. They moved in the pattern their species had used successfully for centuries, like a net closing around a fish. But Captain Summon had studied their tactics. She knew exactly what they would do. Just as the bioships thought they had her trapped, she fired missiles in all directions at once. Not at the enemy ships, but at the empty space around them. The nuclear explosions created a wall of fire and radiation that the Vorthak could not see through. While they were blind and confused, the Stormbringer attacked. It moved through the fire like a ghost, appearing beside each bioship just long enough to destroy it, then disappearing again. In 30 seconds, all 10 enemies were dead. Lieutenant Minji was monitoring the human ship's condition from her control panel. Her 4 arms moved quickly as she tried to track all the information coming in. The Stormbringer's shields are down to 30%, she reported. Their hull has damage in 12 places. They are leaking air and fuel. But then she checked her count of destroyed enemies and her voice filled with awe. They have destroyed 43 Vorthak vessels. 43. That is more than half their fleet. Captain Yuna coiled her serpent body tighter as she watched the battle. Her people were naturally peaceful, but she understood strategy and tactics. What she was seeing should not be possible. They are not just warriors, she said softly. Humans are evolved for war. Every tool they make, every idea they have, is designed to help them fight better. They do not fight to win battles. They fight to completely destroy their enemies. The Vorthak queenship had been watching the battle from a safe distance. But now, as she saw more than half her swarm destroyed by a single enemy vessel, she began to panic. Her bioluminescent lights flashed urgent commands to her remaining ships. The message was clear: retreat. Run away. This enemy is too dangerous. The surviving bioships began to pull back, trying to escape before the human ship could kill them all. But Captain Summon was not finished with them yet. Her voice came over the radio, no longer singing war songs. Now she spoke with cold determination. Thunder, plot intercept course for the queenship. Maximum speed. Prepare for ramming attack. The Stormbringer turned toward the massive enemy vessel and accelerated, ready for one final, devastating strike. The Stormbringer was badly damaged. Smoke poured from holes in its hull, and sparks flew from broken systems inside. But Captain Summon was not done fighting. She looked at the massive Vorthak queenship floating in space like a small moon covered in teeth and eyes. The queenship was 10 times bigger than her vessel. Its living armor was thick enough to stop normal weapons. Any sane captain would try to escape or call for backup. But Captain Summon was human, and humans did not think like other species. She pushed the engine controls to maximum power. The Stormbringer turned toward the queenship and began to accelerate. Faster and faster it flew, aiming straight at the center of the massive bio-vessel. On Kepler Station, everyone watched in horror as they realized what was happening. She is going to crash into the queenship, Commander Taiho said, his 6 eyes wide with shock. Dr. Hannah wiped tears from her face. She knew humans better than anyone else on the station, and she understood what Captain Summon was really planning. No, she said softly. She is going to do something much worse. She is going to explode her antimatter reactor right inside the enemy ship. Captain Summon's voice came over the radio one last time. She sounded calm and peaceful, like someone who had made an important decision and was not afraid anymore. Stormbringer calling Kepler Station, she said. Tell everyone what happened here today. Tell them that humans came when you needed help. Tell them that we protect our own people, no matter what the cost. The radio went quiet. Everyone on the station held their breath as they watched the small human ship race toward the giant Vorthak vessel. Jihoon was crying. She is going to die. Why is she doing this? Because that is what humans do, Dr. Hannah answered. When we cannot win, we make sure our enemies lose too. The Stormbringer hit the queenship's bioarmor at incredible speed. The living hull tried to heal itself around the impact, but it was too late. The human ship punched through like a bullet through paper and disappeared inside the massive alien vessel. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then the Queen ship began to glow from the inside. The explosion was brighter than a star. The Stormbringer's antimatter reactor had been designed to power a city for a year. When all that energy was released at once, it turned both ships into pure light and heat. The shockwave from the explosion rolled out in all directions. The remaining Vorthak bioships were thrown around like toys in a hurricane. Some of them were torn apart by the force. Others were burned by the intense heat. When the light faded, both the Stormbringer and the Queen ship were gone. There was nothing left but glowing gas and metal fragments floating in space. The surviving Vorthak vessels had lost their leader. Without the Queen to give them orders, they began to panic. Bioships crashed into each other as they tried to flee in different directions. Some of them started fighting each other, confused and afraid. Lieutenant Minji was monitoring space around the station when her sensors detected something new. Multiple contacts coming out of hyperspace, she announced. Many ships. They are all human designs. Through the viewing window, everyone could see bright flashes as more ships arrived. One by one, they appeared from hyperspace like sharks coming to investigate the smell of blood in the water. These were not single ships like the Stormbringer. This was a fleet. Dozens of dark, angular warships spread across space in perfect formation. Each one looked like it had been built for only one purpose: destroying enemies. A new voice came over the radio. It was deep and commanding, with the authority of someone who had fought many battles. This is Admiral Kyung of the Human Defense Force First Fleet. The Stormbringer was our scout ship. We came as soon as we got her report. Any Vorthak vessels still in this system will be destroyed immediately. Dr. Hannah smiled through her tears as she watched the human fleet deploy for battle. The ships moved like a pack of wolves, surrounding the remaining biovessels with deadly precision. Captain Yuna coiled her serpent body in amazement. How many ships did they bring? Minji counted the contacts on her screen. 4 to 7 warships. 3 carrier vessels. 12 support ships. This is not a rescue mission. This is an invasion fleet. The Vorthak tried to run, but it was too late. The human ships were faster and more maneuverable than the biovessels. One by one, they hunted down the fleeing enemies and destroyed them with ruthless efficiency. The aliens on Kepler Station watched in stunned silence as humanity's true nature was revealed. These were not the primitive, barely civilized beings that the galaxy thought they knew. These were apex predators who had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of war. In 30 minutes, every Vorthak ship was destroyed. The human fleet then spread out to patrol the system, making sure no enemies had escaped. Dr. Hannah sat down at her computer and began to write her final report about the battle. Her fingers moved slowly across the keyboard as she chose her words carefully. The other species in the galaxy call us primitive, she wrote. They call us barbaric and violent. They say we are warmongers who solve every problem with weapons. They are completely right about all of these things. And that is exactly why we are still alive when civilized solutions fail. She paused and looked out at the human warships patrolling nearby. Sometimes the galaxy needs diplomats and peacekeepers. Sometimes it needs scientists and teachers. But sometimes, when monsters come in the night, the galaxy needs monsters of its own. Sometimes it needs humans. The rescue ships arrived 6 hours later to help repair Kepler Station and treat the wounded. But everyone knew that something had changed forever. The galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. And in the dark corners of space, other predator species heard the story of what happened at Kepler Station. They learned that there was a young, violent race that would cross the galaxy to protect 3 of their people. They learned to be afraid.